Welcome to this topic as we will continue with history from 3. So this topic is one of the good or wonderful topics that we have. Just as we were looking at the last topic, that is the missionary factor, we said that this topic is one of the good topic. It is very short, but it covers the aspects of ivory and slave trade in East and Central Africa. So we're going to look at the development of trade, that is the trade in ivory as well as slaves in East and Central Africa. So let's be together, let's go through together in this wonderful topic. So to begin with this topic, let us look at the development of ivory and slave trade in East and Central Africa. So ivory and slave trade started early by the 18th and the 19th century, and the trade expanded greatly. So this ivory trade, by this time, it expanded so well, that is 18th and the 19th century. So the Arabs, they were exporting slave trade. They were the ones who started this trade way back, that is by 750 AD. They were exporting slaves to their homes, that is as early as 750 AD. So we talk of the Arabs. So these Arabs, they came from Yemen, they came from Oman, Persia, as well as India. So these Arabs, they came from different places, that is in Arabia. However, by this time, ivory was already in trade. So by that time, we talk of 750, ivory was already in trade. So the Arabs, they were the first to take slaves from East Africa. So the Arabs were the first people to get slaves from East Africa. So this happened when they made several settlements along the east coast of Africa as far back as the 695 AD. So that's when the Arabs they settled in the eastern coast of Africa. We talk of the places that we mentioned the area on when we were looking at the development of gold trade or the Portuguese factor. We mentioned about the Arabs who were competing with the Portuguese in east coast. Or we talked of places like Mombasa, Sofara, all those places that are found in East Africa. So the Portuguese gained control later. So just as we mentioned earlier on that the first were the Arabs, but the later on when the Portuguese visited the areas, they were finding their sea route to India. They were attracted to the trade that was taking place there. So ivory trade was taking place there and by the Arabs, and the Portuguese, they dominated the trade later. Just this trade, we can say that it was happening concurrently with the gold trade itself. Now, let's look at the factors. What were the factors that led to the increase in demand for slaves for ivory? We talk of ivory first. Now, the first one is the decline in gold mining made ivory to be an important trade commodity. So just as we looked at the Portuguese factor, we said that those were coming for gold. They wanted to control gold. But as time went on, you find that that gold was depleted or gold mining was going down. Therefore, the only commodity that they could get was ivory. So it was the demand was rising for ivory because gold demand was going down. And also industrialization in Europe increased the demand for ivory. So ivory was used for making piano, billiard balls, chess pieces, ornaments, handlebars, or handles of kitchenware ware or utensils. So due to high demand, prices of ivory, they were so good in Britain. So we see the second factor to say that industrialization. People in Europe now they had industries, hence they needed raw materials that they could use for different things. So we have said that they were using the piano keys, they were using the ivory. So in those industries that were making such things, they needed much industries to make more. They needed much ivory to make more pianos. And again, due to high demand of prices, uh, due to high demand, prices of ivory were so good in Britain. So also industrialization. Remember the period of industrialization. We looked at this in Form 2. During that time, Britain, there were a lot of factories that were there. As such, there was high demand for ivory in Britain. Another factor for the high demand or for the growth of ivory was that ivory that was taken from Africa was in great demand because it was soft and easy to carve. So the ivory that was taken from Africa, it was easy to carve or to shape into something else. And again, African chiefs benefited from ivory trade. Since they controlled it as a result, they encouraged it. So also African chiefs, they were the prime beneficiaries from ivory trade. Hence, they were controlling it as well as they were encouraging it to say yes, people they need to kill more elephants for ivory. And also there was a huge population of elephants in Central Africa by that time, especially in the Lilongwe Kasungu Plain. There were a lot of elephants there, and also the Kamanga Plain. There were a lot of elephants. Tete and around Lake Chirwa, Tanganyika, Mweru, Lake Bangweru again. All those areas, there were just a lot of elephants as such that attracted many people to come and buy those ivory. So at first, ivory was taken from east coast of Africa. So at first, when people they were in need of those ivory, they were just coming to East Africa and getting that because there were also elephants there, a lot of them. But when the supply of ivory declined at east coast of Africa, the Arabs then they moved into the interior to obtain the same ivory. So it happened that after some time, when they had killed a lot of elephants in East Africa and they were now scarce, then ivory now declined. Therefore, that's when the Arabs now started to migrate to venture inside and look for that ivory. So the ivory which was harvested, which was taken in East and Central Africa, was exported to Asia, especially in India. So the ivory that was taken from East Africa, it was going to Asia, especially in India. So in the 19th century, we mean the 1800s now, the ivory trade had boomed and the African potters were used to carry ivory to the east and were eventually sold out upon reaching the destination. So here what we are saying is that uh, since those Arabs they could not find the ivory in the eastern coast there, they had killed a lot of elephants there. They started to come in Central Africa to look for the same. But then those traders were few when they were coming. Hence, here there were a lot of ivory. Now, they needed people to carry that ivory to the coast. So what was happening was that they were given some helpers, some potters. Those chiefs, remember we said that the chiefs, they were encouraging it to say, all right, people were encouraged to kill elephants and bring the tusks, elephant tusks to the king. That is what is ivory. Now, there were a lot of ivory. Now, who was to carry? They had no means of transport. The only means of transport was to carry it on the head or on the shoulder, going far distances. Now, those traders, now they embarked on employing or using, they requested the chiefs to bring some people, energetic people who can carry those things to the coast. So because chiefs were prime beneficiaries, they just allowed to say, okay, yes, uh, you, we have people, we have men here, energetic men that are going to carry this. Then they were carrying that all the way, take it from maybe Nkamanga, that is from Rumbi, all the way to Tanzania on foot. We don't know they were working how many days, but they were working like helpers, carrying that ivory to the eastern coast. Now, upon reaching the coast there, then those Arabs, they could sell that ivory to say, all right, we are selling this ivory to the buyers. Then, apart from that, they were also selling those potters, the people who assisted them to carry, they could also sell them to say, all right, you can even buy these people and go with them. Then, slave trade there. It was like that. So, although the volume of ivory trade went higher, it was suddenly overtaken by slave trade. So, you can see to it. When now more potters were coming, were sold, more potters were sold. Now people saw to it that yes, much as we profit in ivory, but also there is profit in buying these people who come with this ivory, who carry this ivory. So we say ivory was overtaken by slave trade. So people now ventured into slave trade more. That's when now people were coming in. Maybe others were coming for ivory, others were coming solely for slaves to say, now we need more energetic men to buy. So they were doing that. So since the chiefs were already beneficiaries, they were able to sell people outside and even embarking on capturing some villages to say, oh, we have captured you, we are selling you out because we benefit a lot. We get guns from our traders like that. So why was there increase in demand for slaves in Central Africa from 1750? So we are going to look at this one, this increase in demand in two parts. Number one, we look at the external factors, the factors outside Africa that prompted the demand for slaves in Central Africa. Number one, between 1740 and 1815, there was expansion of sugar and coffee plantations on the Mascarene Islands of Mauritius and Reunion by the French. So the French, they dominated the islands of Mauritius there and Reunion. Then what happened was that there they opened up the sugar plantations. So with that, then they needed more people to work in those plantations because by then maybe methods of farming usually it was manpower. They were using manpower, so they required a lot of labor and was taken from the mainland, especially Central Africa. So for them to meet the labor that was demanded by the plantations, sugar plantations there, they came to they wanted people from elsewhere. Hence, the people of Central Africa, they were victims. They were taken to work as laborers in the sugar plantations in Mauritius. And also, there was the British naval blockade of slave export from West Africa. So, as you may recall with the slave trade, the Great Triangle slave trade that we looked at in Form 1 word, that one we said it all started in with West Africa. The Europeans were coming to West Africa to get slaves and sell them in America and enjoy the profits in Europe like that. So it was called the Great Triangle, the Great Triangle. So after some time, the British, they saw to it that no, this is the evil to humanity. So we have to stop this slavery. So they blocked that slave trade route from Africa to America. So they blocked there in the Atlantic Ocean. No one was allowed to export trade slaves from West Africa going to America. As a result, what happened was that those slave traders, because they were benefiting, it was so profitable, then they switched to say, all right, West Africa closed, now we are going to concentrate on East Africa. So that's why we are saying here that after the British blockade of slave export in West Africa, then those traders, they turned to East Africa, where slaves were instead acquired from Central Africa. So we see to it that it prompted those who were trading in West Africa to come to East Africa and embark on it, because the British, they only blocked on the Atlantic Ocean. The third external factor was the development of clove and coconut palm plantations by the Oman Arabs, led by Saidi Said, on the Mrima coast, that is in the east coast of Africa. So this one, it also needed a lot of labor. So there was the clove and coconut palm plantations, and by the Oman Arabs that were led by Saidi. So these ones, they also needed a lot of labor. So with that, they tend to East Africa or Central Africa for slaves who may be working on the cloth plantations. Also, the Portuguese, they needed labor for their prezos. Remember the prezos when we were looking at the Portuguese factor. So they also needed them to fight in their private armies, and they got them from Central Africa. So the Portuguese, they needed people to work in their farms, that is the prezos. They also needed people to join their armies so that they dominate or acquire more areas. And also there was high demand in Oman and the Far East for slaves who were taken to work as domestic workers and concubines. So the Far East, they needed Africans to work as domestic workers as well as concubines for women. Now let's look at the organization. How was this trade organized? So it was organized in such a way that it had buyers. So they were the buyers who were the Arabs. So the buyers were the Arabs who had markets in Arabia and Asia. So the buyers who are the Arabs, they had their markets in Asia and Arabia. And also the Portuguese. The Portuguese were also the buyers who sold the slaves to America and Mozambique. So the Portuguese were also other buyers who were also exporting them to America. So these buyers, they stationed at the eastern coast. The eastern coast, that's where they were the buyers. So apart from the buyers that we have looked at, there were also agents. So the agents were there. So some of these agents were like the Yao, the Chikunda, the Swahili Arabs, yeah. So these ones, they were also acting as the middlemen. So their duty was to collect ivory as well as slaves in the interior and sold them at the coast to the Arabs and the Portuguese. So the slaves were used to carry ivory to the coast. So just as we have said here, we've said that the buyers were always at the coast there. So they needed some middlemen who were the Swahili Arabs, the Yao, the Wemba, and the like. So they participated in those slave trade, coming into the inside, grab or collect the slaves and sell them to the buyers. So those ones who were coming inside, they were called the middlemen. And also, there were the African chiefs. So African chiefs cannot be ruled out from this game of this trade. And the subjects, so their subjects again, the chiefs and their subjects, who were the sellers, and they supplied slaves and ivory to the agents. So at the end part of slave, they were the African chiefs. So it was like the buyers, they were on top. Below them, they were the middlemen, and below them, they were the sellers. So I've said the buyers, they were the Portuguese and Arabs. And the middlemen, they were the Yao, the Swahili Arabs, and many others. And the sellers, they were the chiefs and their subjects. They were the ones who were having the resources or the trade materials.
Simutaya nthawi yanu kufunafuna maphunziro muzakhala wotumidwa moyo wanu wonse. Ngati simuphunzira anthu azingokutumani ajala kalime ajala kuchwe manyazi ajala katende yanti ndipo anthu ophunzira wandu wotumanso kwambiri. Ndiye ngati simuphunzira skulu akuyikirani aba mukhala otumidwa.